Hill and Gully Ride is in St. Thomas today, near Morant Bay, looking for a lady called Joanna Facey.
You have found her, sir?
Okay.
We are at the Morant Bay Plaza.
Uh-huh.
We have Chippies. We have Western Union.
Uh-huh.
We have Downtown Payless. That's our wholesale.
Yeah.
It's a busy, very busy place, and we have persons who are able to do their little wares on the plaza.
Who are we going to see today?
We are going to Stanton Road, and we are going to see Mrs. Evelyn Matalon.
Uh-huh.
Mrs. Evelyn was the commissioner for Girl Guides Association. Whenever time we have a centenarian coming up, we try to feature them somewhere along the line. She is celebrating her 100th birthday. That was on the 2nd of November.
Okay, good. How far away from where we are?
It's about a mile and a half from here.
Okay. Now we are at Stanton, where Evelyn Matalon lives. She's on her veranda with a number of friends. Miss Evelyn, where were you born?
I was born on License Road
Ooh.
at Belfast, where Rada is now.
Okay, Belfast. And when were you born?
1916. I'm 100 years old.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who did you grow up with?
I grew up with my mother and my father's sister, my aunt. My father died when I was a little baby, 2.5.
Oh.
So I never knew my father. He died at the age of 27.
Oh, yeah. Very young, my goodness.
From the flu after the First World War.
Spanish influenza, no? Yes.
Actually died in New York, but he didn't go to the war.
Yes, yes. What did you have to do with yourself when you were growing up at License, near License?
Sad to say, but it was a very segregated life. We didn't mix, the colors didn't mix. And so I kind of lived there in isolation. Well, I lived at Belfast until I was about 7 something.
What was Belfast?
Belfast is the house in License, where Rada is now. It was a big house there on the top of the hill that we owned, and I lived there until I was about 7. Then we went to live in Kingston because there was no secondary school down here.
Yes.
So I went to St. Andrew High School when I was 8. Well, I only lived here, you know, until I was about 8. I don't think I was even quite 8. And then we moved to Kingston.
Yes.
I went to school at St. Andrew High School.
Yes.
And I stayed there until I was 17.
Who was the headmistress?
Miss Gartshaw.
St.
And it was the second term that the school opened.
Oh.
So you know how long ago that was.
It was brand new.
Brand new. And we were 30 students.
Oh.
30, imagine. We had classes in the old coach house where they used to keep the buggy and horse.
Yes.
It was called Cecilia Lodge.
Oh.
Because the building, the house was Cecilia Lodge.
Yes.
And I think it belonged to the Lindos before.
Yes. Were you a boarder? Or?
No, I was a day scholar. I had very happy members of St. Andrew.
Yes.
I had lots of friends, but I had 2 special friends, Jean Tuckett and Hazel Hislop, who are both predeceased me.
Yes.
As most everybody.
Yes.
And we had a very happy school life.
Any special teacher?
Miss Stockhausen.
Stockhausen?
And Miss Sherlock, Alma Sherlock, was one of my special teachers.
What made them special to you?
Because I liked them very much. I thought they were very good teachers, and consequently they liked me because I worked hard at my work.
Yes, yes, yes.
And when you're a good student, teachers love you.
Yes,
So-
of course.
So I had a very happy school life, very happy. And I stayed there until 1933, when I graduated, because we took the senior Cambridge exams.
Oh.
I took that, and then I left school, and I went to Philadelphia in America.
Oh, you migrated?
No, I just went to go to university there.
Oh.
But I was very homesick, and my mother said, if you can have to stay a year, if you still don't like it, you can come home. And I came home just before the year.
Yes.
I was very unhappy there. I was very unhappy. I was very homesick, really. And I came home, and shortly after that, I got married.
Okay.
I got married and to Manny Henriquez. We were young, you know. We were 20, I think it were.
Yes.
It was a disaster, anyhow. Whatever the age it was a disaster.
Yes.
And I had 2 little boys, and then I left him when my second baby was 2 weeks old.
Yes.
And I came back here to Stanton, to my mother and auntie.
To where?
I brought my little baby on a pillow in the car.
That's very romantic. And so you spent most of your life as a young mother here at Stanton?
Yes, I lived here for 6 years. And then I met Zaki Matalon, and we got married.
What you did when you came back to Jamaica?
I don't remember what I did, really. I didn't work, unfortunately.
Yes.
I got married very shortly after I came back.
Yes.
I had 2 little boys, and then I taught my little boys, and I taught some other children.
You homeschooled them?
I homeschooled them, yes. And I homeschooled the Farquharson children and the Hopwood children, and who else?
Yes.
I just had a little school. I have the building right there.
Yes. Yes.
I have a school room.
You are watching Hill and Gully Ride, brought to you by the Media Technology Institute, training the best.
My passion for filmmaking started off when I was younger, making YouTube videos with my friends. We used to always do these mini movies of us doing stunts and flips. I knew then that I wanted a career in video production. And what better place than MTI to get hands-on experience with media professionals that have been in the industry for years. Kickstart your career today. Call MTI.
You are watching Hill and Gully Ride, brought to you by the Media Technology Institute, training the best.
Hill and Gully Ride is at Stanton today in St. Thomas with Mrs. Evelyn Matalon. She's 100 years old, but she has a remarkable memory. Miss Evelyn, what was Jamaica like in the old days? Tram cars and buggy?
Well, no, not buggy. We had a car from 1924, and my auntie drove, and she was one of the first women drivers in Jamaica.
What was her name?
Miss Ivy Mordecai.
Okay.
And she was the first woman that ever drove to Cedar Valley.
Oh.
They were open cars that you had.
The top would be rolled back or pushed back?
No, you had things to put around when it rained.
Oh.
I can't remember what you call them. Clip-on. When it rained, we had something to cover the car that the rain didn't blow in.
Yes.
Yeah. When I went to live in Kingston,
Yes.
I went to Miss Nellie Jones had a school at Matilda's Corner. And I went to school in Tollica every morning to Miss Jones's school.
Yes.
And then I went to St. Andrew when I was about 8.
Yes. Do you remember any of the governors during the early days?
Governor Stubbs, he was a very nice man actually.
And they all
This is an interesting thing. I was in a play. My music teacher, Miss Mochette, Ina Mochette, put on a play at Halfway Tree School. And I was in this play, and I had a very large part in it, really. I was a very little girl. I was very young. I was about 7. But I also was very little, so I always looked younger than I was.
Yes.
And this was really a big part, a lot of memory work. And the governor's wife was at the school.
Lady
Lady Stubbs was at the school for the play. You know, it was one of these end of term things, you know. And she thought, she had a little girl, a daughter, and she thought that she would like me to meet the little girl. So she invited me. She sent the car. My mother was so excited. She sent the car with the driver to my house in Kingston to invite me to come to dinner.
They were living at King's House?
They were living at King's House. So I was quite excited. I went off to dinner. But of course, dinner was just Bovril. You know, English people like Bovril. I don't know if you know what Bovril is.
It's a kind of soup, right?
Yes, it's a thing you mix. It's horrible, but anyhow. So I went to this little girl, but her name was Barbara Stubbs, and we became good friends, but I was a little older, so that the supper business didn't go so well because I was really very bored. I used to really go and have this Bovril with her often, but the thing I used to do was to converse with her nanny, who was very nice. I was too old for the child, really.
Who was Barbara Stubbs' nanny at King's House?
I don't know. She was an English woman, an English nanny.
What do you all talk about?
General things, you know, whatever was happening at the time and so on. And I mean, she wasn't my contemporary. I was a child and she was a woman. But she was very nice, and the girl that she cared, Barbara, was younger than me, so we didn't have too much in common, you know. So I kind of enjoyed the older woman's conversation.
Right. Were you reading a lot in those days?
Yes, I used to read.
What you used to read?
Yes.
What?
Well, I read all the ones you're supposed to read.
Not Alice in Wonderland?
Just going to say. Yes, I had and then when I went to St. Andrew, my literature teacher, Miss Stockhausen, suggested a very nice thing, and if any of you have contact with young people, you should tell them this. She told me to write down every book that I read. Keep a list of every book that I read. And do you know, I have done that for 93 years.
Yes.
And I have a list of all the books that I've read. And it's very good because it makes you read more. You're more inclined to read a lot if you're doing that, if you're writing down the book. I've read all the ones that were recommended to read, and I read, of course, countless others. You know. I was an avid reader.
You had your own little library and all that? Was the Institute of Jamaica a place where you could go to get books?
Yes, but you know, I didn't really go much to the Institute because I lived here first, in country. And then after that, the Institute was quite far from where I lived. I lived on the Seymour lands, up by near Hope Gardens. And the Institute is quite a long way from there. In those days, I think distances, you took them more seriously too. You didn't go a long distance, you know. And but I read a lot, I read a lot.
Did you know the Seymour family?
I knew Mr. Seymour. His family were not there, not alive when I was in Kingston. The land was his land that we bought. He had a farm. He had cows. It was a big place, and then he cut up the land and sold acres. He didn't sell small lots. He sent acres. And my auntie bought an acre, and Henriquez brothers, who were architects and builders at the time, we built a house. They built a house which is still there, and it's called Stanton Terrace, after Stanton. And then the name of the land, the name of the road, Mr. Seymour called Stanton Terrace after our house. So when you drive down on the road to what is it? Stanton Terrace? Yeah. That's named after our house, which is named after here. And my auntie was very upset that Mr. Seymour had named the road Stanton Terrace.
Why was she upset?
And she complained to him that she didn't like the idea that it was public name. And he said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yes. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
You are watching Hill and Gully Ride, brought to you by the Media Technology Institute, training the best. You are watching Hill and Gully Ride, brought to you by the Media Technology Institute, training the best.
Our guest today on Hill and Gully Ride is Mrs. Matalon, Evelyn Matalon, who has an astonishing memory for someone who is 100 years old. We're at our home in St. Thomas, a place called Stanton.
Stanton Terrace is on Seymour Avenue that runs right into Hope Road.
Dr. Valentine used to live near there, the corner?
Not when I was there. Mr. Dunn lived there. You know, the lawyer, he was quite a well-known lawyer.
Yes.
Mr. Dunn was there.
So you knew Seymour Seymour. What an odd name. According to Irene Banton Ray, Seymour grass was brought to Jamaica by George Seymour Seymour, penkeeper, politician, sportsman, and custos of St. Andrew. She said he brought the grass to Jamaica to feed his race horses.
Honorable Seymour brought it. That every time when I was traveling doing welfare work, I would look upon his house up in Clarendon. Yes. Yeah, I was always looking on the hills and say, God bless you for the grass you brought us.
He was a very tall, distinguished looking man, really. I didn't know him well, you know, I was a little girl. Yes. But I knew who he was and knew him like to say good morning and all that kind of thing.
He was a politician and a public servant.
He was, I think, the mayor of Kingston. I think he was the mayor of Kingston. Yes. And he had this lovely property, I mean, beautiful, acres and acres of it, you know, where he had cows. And then he cut it up, sold acres. He didn't say little spots, he just sold an acre. Yes. And we lived there for 6 months. We were the only house on the whole property for 6 months. And then people started buying it. Yes. Of course, now it's a well-built-up area.
Oh, it was a lovely area.
It is. It still is. Yes. It's kept itself very nicely. Yes. I remember down here, living in Morant Bay, it was very quiet. You know, there was no movies. There was no. I don't know what we did really. And I remember that it was. Unfortunately, but it was the times, it was how it was at the times. It was a very segregated life. The whites met with the whites and the blacks went with the blacks, and never the twain shall meet. But we had 2 clubs. We had the St. Thomas Country Club, which was up at Summit Road.
What, you played tennis on?
Yes, tennis and we used to play and we used to play cards too. I was very keen on bridge. I played a lot of bridge. And they had another club by opposite Mrs.
Gas station.
Yeah, gas station, what you call it. Yeah, that was the Morant Bay Club. And the one on the hill was the St. Thomas Country Club. And they were separate, really. Yes. We had lovely parties and dances. People used to come from Kingston to our dances because we really did put on good things. We had Mrs. Jackson, Gladys Jackson, Barbara Pengelly, and several other ladies who used to work very hard when we had a dance, because we decorated the whole place and made it look really socious.
Yes, where you got the music from? You had orchestras at the time?
Sometimes we had live music, And sometimes we
Gramophone?
had gramophone. I think usually for the big dances we had live music. I don't remember the names of the bands, I don't remember.
You didn't do quadrilles and things like
No,
that?
we just regular.
Regular. Yes.
Foxtrot and
Foxtrot, yes.
no.
What about Crossroads and Halfway Tree in those days?
Crossroads had
At Crossroads, there was a famous lively nightclub called the Silver Slipper. And at Halfway Tree, there was the Glass Bucket, a rival to the Silver Slipper. Glass Bucket was patronized by all the lively young socialites.
But the Silver Slipper never achieved the distinction of the glass bucket. Yeah. And we all used to go to the glass bucket. I went to the Silver Slipper too, but the glass bucket was the place to go on a Saturday night, yes. We used to dance, and I never drank really, and I never smoked. I'd have an occasional little liqueur or something, but not a drinker.
And what was Christmas like for you in those days?
We had a nice Christmas. We used to have Christmas down here. My family, we had Christmas there. And of course, when you have children, Christmas is wonderful. It's magical.
Yes, you had a tree and all that?
Oh, yes. And I'm not Christian, I'm Jewish.
All right. What was your maiden name?
Mordecai.
Mordecai. So you attended the synagogue?
Yes.
Where? On North Street?
Yes. It's the only one in Jamaica.
Yes. There was a Mordecai who was involved in the Scout movement.
Yeah, very famous Mordecai. Mr.
Man.
Leslie Mordecai.
That's right.
He's my cousin.
Oh, yes.
My father's first cousin. He was very fat and he always wore shorts. But he was wonderful with the Scouts. He was the Scouts. He ran a wonderful Scout movement. It has never been as good. And I have been in guiding for, 40 odd years,
Where was the headquarters for the guides?
Well, the headquarters in Kingston, Waterloo Road.
Custos Matalon. What did he have to do as Custos?
Well,
That you were involved in?
we had to go to all the little functions that were put on in the parish. And my husband was very active with people. If anybody didn't get their pension, he would raise the roof and get the pension,
Yeah.
I never forgotten. We had a very lovely lady out here that in the sugar industry, I can't remember her name, and she couldn't get her pension, and he was so angry. He got it for her. It's just red tape. Not that they were going to give it to her, but it took so long that sometimes people died before they got the pension.
Oh my. Evelyn Matalon, who was deeply involved in the Girl Guides and Brownies movements, has been taking us on a journey through the early years of the 20th century. We'll continue with our journey with Evelyn Matalon of Stanton in St. Thomas on our next program. Until then, we're up the hill. Thank you for watching Hill and Gully Ride.